Hello and welcome to the Week in Golf. I'm Rod Morrie. Good to have your company as we catch up with happenings around the world of golf. On this episode, we meet a man whose determination to play the game is beyond extraordinary. Feature part 2 of our chat with Golf Australia CEO Stephen Pitt, and watch Paula Creamer hole another amazing putt in Singapore, but this time in heels. All that coming up shortly, but first let's take a look at results from the world of professional golf, and we'll kick things off with the WGC Cadillac Championship in Florida. There was a wild ride all week, starting with a staggering opening round of 10 under par 62 from JB Holmes. As it turned out, that score would have been good enough to win come Sunday, but like the rest of the field, Holmes struggled with the Blue Monster course, and it was the informed Dustin Johnson who eventually took the title. Adam Scott made his 2015 debut at Doral and caused a stir when he teed up using a regular length putter. It was the first time he'd used a short putter since switching to the broomstick back in 2011. The Queenslander didn't seem to suffer any ill effects, finishing leading Australian for the week in a tie for 4th place. To the Premier Women's Tour now, where the world's best teed up in Singapore this week in what turned into a battle between past and present world number ones. Current holder of the title Lydia Ko was aiming for a hat-trick of wins, but found herself up against former top-ranked Stacey Lewis and In B Park. In the end, it was Park who hung on for the win by 2 shots over Ko, with Lewis a further 2 back. While the biggest names in men's golf were in Florida for the WGC, the regular PGA Tour travelled to Puerto Rico. Germany's Alex Chaker won a 5-man playoff with a birdie at the first extra hole, his first PGA Tour win in 287 starts. Rod Pampling was best of the Australians, 2 shots out of the playoff, while Cameron Percy and Jared Lyle both missed the cut. To the Web.com Tour now, where Australia's Steve Allen has had a big head start on getting a main tour card for next year. Allen finished runner-up in Colombia, 5 shots behind winner Andrew Landry. He picked up more than $61,000 for his effort to now be 7th on the money list. There are 3 Australians inside the top 25 so far this season, Matthew Goggin and Oliver Goss the others. In Europe, South Africa's Trevor Fisher Jr. won his first European Tour title at the Africa Open. Brett Rumford and rookie Todd Sinnott were the only Australian starters for the week. Both made the cut, but never really threatened the leaders. Back to the Southern Hemisphere now, and Matt Miller won his first PGA Tour of Australasia event at the New Zealand PGA this week. It was a fitting result for Miller, who had his heart broken by Ryan Fox at the Queensland PGA 2 weeks ago. Fox made back-to-back eagles late in the final round to steal that title from under Miller's nose. And finally to Sydney, where the 9th Women's New South Wales Open was staged at the Oatlands Golf Club this week. The final round turned into a classic shootout with as many as 5 players sharing the lead at various points. In the end, it was England's Holly Clyburn who broke the stalemate with a birdie at the 14th hole. She hung on to win by 1. Rebecca Artis was the top Australian, finishing in a share of 2nd. And keeping an eye on all of that golf over the week, but paying particular attention to the second round of the WGC at Doral is Larry Canning. And Larry, plenty of focus obviously on the golf scores, but Rory McIlroy attracting attention not for his work with the ball.
With his tossing, right? Yes, and I have a keen interest in tossing, as you might be aware. I've tossed the odd club myself over the years with not quite the media sensation that has surrounded Rory's, but I honestly believe that a really good toss is a reflection of the player's personality. And I think the classic example of this, Rod, would be Sergio Garcia in the Thailand Open some years ago. Sergio dunked his first shot in the water, was nearly going to throw his club, but stopped himself to his credit. Went to the drop zone, half shanked his second shot, way right of the green, proceeded to toss his club with great passion and emotion that we're used to seeing from Sergio, straight into the middle of the lake. And I give him a 9 out of 10 for that toss, Rod. I think another great example would be the Henrik Stenson in the Dubai Classic. This was, I think, a couple of years ago. Henrik hit his second shot up against the water, nearly in the water, but just in the light rough next to the green. He duffed his chip, proceeded to toss his club calmly, as he does. He's the ice-cool Swede, straight back over his shoulder, not even looking to see where the club landed. Calmly took his putter from his caddy, I think it was Fanny Sorensen at the time, and proceeded to go about his business. Another great toss, and I'm giving that an 8. And, of course, Rory McIlroy's, I mean, it was just one of the most graceful-looking tosses. And we know Rory is a nice young fellow with a magnificent amount of athletic ability. And we saw him, play a hooked 3-iron and then proceeded to calculatedly and calmly, but with a lot of power, throw his 3-iron straight into the water And we saw, I think the thing that impressed me the most, Rod, was the amount of power but smoothness of it all, and the classic follow-through position he held for quite a few seconds. And I know that tossing coaches all over the world are suggesting that we should hold our follow-through position as long as we can. We saw the 3-iron with a slight draw into the water at great speed, and I give this a well-deserved 10 for Rory McIlroy's toss. Rod, if there's any kids watching, please don't toss your clubs in the water. I know, being a parent, your dad's not going to be all that keen on financing that new club unless you have a $250 million contract with Nike, as Rory does, right?
Yeah, indeed he does. Look, Larry, it's kind of amusing to see, but I know that, as you've said, you've been prone to the odd club toss yourself. It's a bit embarrassing when you do it. We all understand the frustration that leads to it, but it is a bit embarrassing when you let golf get the better of you, isn't it?
Well, yeah. If you're not hurting the golf course or swearing at anybody, Rod, or hurting another player, it has its place, but it has to be controlled and done in a measured way. And as I said, please don't break your club, because they cost a lot of money to replace them, don't they?
Larry Canning, as always, thanks for your insight.
Thanks, Rob.
Now, we've all felt the frustration of golf at times, but I think all of us would agree that without the game, we'd be lost. That was a scenario that faced James Gribble after an accident left him a quadriplegic several years ago. But through sheer determination and power of will, James is not only back playing golf, but trying to introduce others to the game as well.
Look, I had a pretty simple accident really. I went for a long run, and later that night I felt a bit dehydrated and thought I'd put my head down for a second, and literally before I knew it I'd passed out and fallen back off the stool that I was on and broke my neck, resulting in quadriplegia. So a pretty simple accident, as most of them are, with pretty dire circumstances. For me, I thought when someone said you're going to be a quadriplegic, I thought that was someone who drove around with their chin in a power chair, and evidently that's not the case with some of the developments in science and rehab and medicine, and just sometimes a bit of luck. A lot of people recover a little bit more than that sort of pretty dire circumstance of being literally no movement from your head down. And I was certainly lucky across all those areas to have a great support network and get some recovery, but also do a lot of work rehab-wise to get myself in a bit better position. When you're lying there with no movement from your neck down, the world's pretty grim, and you get told to forget anything, walking, riding bikes, even sometimes feeding yourself. It should be just literally taken off the table. But I guess for me that was probably one of the biggest drivers, to start proving people wrong from day one. And that's what's probably led me, led a lot of my recovery and led a lot of my sort of personal headspace along my journey really. Early on, I wasn't a golfer. I had a godfather of mine actually invited me out for a game of golf. And really that day I didn't play too badly for someone who hadn't played so much, and I was pretty much hooked. I think most golfers have that moment where they go from just, oh, it's something I do or I've done for recreation, to being totally obsessed. I always thought I'd get back into golf. It probably sounds a bit obscure to think that when you've been told that you might not be able to feed yourself again. As my body recovered, tried to work out with the range of movement and the little bit of walking I could do and the range of my arms, how I could facilitate being back on the golf course and generating some sort of swing to move the ball an inch, let alone metres or even more. I have the frustrations that everyone does. Probably one of the key things is really that you have to accept that you're not going to be able to hit the ball 300 metres anymore. You're swinging with one arm with no feeling from your chest down and pretty much no movement in your hand. The fact that I'm playing with one arm and being driven around the course by a buggy is irrelevant. The Paragolf is just a revolutionary bit of machinery that tries to replicate anything and everything you can do on a golf course for someone who's lacking mobility, and that can be anyone from a spinal cord injured person where they've got no movement in their legs or from their chest down, all the way through to a stroke sufferer who might have a little bit less mobility issues but still needs a bit of support. That's what the Paragolfer does. It takes you on the greens, it gets you in and out of most of the bunkers, decent sized hills. For people in wheelchairs, just the stand-up feature is also critical from a medical side of things. Things like standing up at the bar to get your drink, or talking to people, or even hugging loved ones, which for a lot of people in wheelchairs just can't happen anymore. So there's some key softer sides as well as the medical and physical sides. The golf clubs bring a sense of community that really no other sport has.
We got involved with it primarily because of our close tie-in with Sargood. There's a Sargood rehabilitation facility being built only a few blocks from here. We have a very close affiliation with Sargood, and in fact through our association with Sargood we're fundraising to purchase a paragolfer. We'll be working with James to acquire a paragolfer, and we're looking forward to being able to use that.
So for the clubs out there, you can get involved by introducing disabled initiatives of your own. You can call your local rehab centres or hospitals, schools, retirement homes, and just get people engaged in your community that is a golf course. Golf provides unbelievable physical and mental health benefits for people, not disabled people, but golfers in general. But specifically for disabled people, things like depression or diabetes or weight gain, which are massive threats, can be annihilated or at least minimised in some respects. 20% of the country, so almost 4 million people, are disabled, and only 2,000 or 3,000 of those are actually physically playing golf. There should be a lot more disabled golfers participating and enjoying golf. If you're a disabled person, literally just come and try it. And if you're a golfer out there, tell someone that you know that might be disabled or in a wheelchair that golf is actually an option for them. And if you see someone out on the course who's trying and is disabled, encourage and really trying to get behind what they're doing, because golf is literally a life changer for people with disabilities. For all the pros out there who are looking to give more lessons, disabled people need coaching as well. So whether you want to volunteer or start actually giving lessons, paid lessons, that's great. And for businesses out there who want to support the initiative, you can either look at sponsoring tournaments, sponsoring days, or even donating to Empower Golf. Empower Golf has a number of key goals. Firstly, we want to provide a valid and sustainable rehabilitation and recreation option for people with disabilities. We want to establish a network of golf clubs which provide access and support for disabled golfers. And we really want to provide a pathway to try, improve, and then compete in golf. And that will happen through development days, coaching, and then tournaments. We aim to promote and facilitate golf for all abilities. And really our main aim is to give golf. So give golf back to those who have lost it, and give golf to those who maybe never experienced the pleasure of playing it before. So finally, we just want to contribute to building the profile and the infrastructure of the disabled game and facilitate the game getting into the Paralympics at some stage in the future.
And a story like that certainly puts those three putts into perspective. If you'd like to know more about Empower Golf, either because you know someone with a disability or you'd just like to help, head to the organisation's website at empowergolf.com.au. Now, as the governing body of the sport, the roles and responsibilities of Golf Australia are diverse. In our recent chat with the CEO, Stephen Pitt, the Week in Golf asked what initiatives the organisation has in place to protect the current and future health of the game. GA have thrown support behind some, in golf terms, radical notions: foot golf, urban golf, speed golf. What's been the thinking with that, and how do they fit into a grow the game sort of an idea?
Well, I guess we've got to be progressive and got to look at options that are available. You can't sit on your hands and do nothing. You've got to put some time, and we haven't thrown a lot of money into it, but we've helped fund some trials and to get some data, and I guess we're interested to see how those things go. I mean, if you look at foot golf, one of the applications it might not be a massive converter from people to foot golf to traditional golf, but it could be an economic driver for clubs. It could help them get a source of income at a time when their course isn't being used much. So there's those sort of opportunities, and for some clubs, something like foot golf might become a really important part of their business.
What are some of the women's programs in particular that we're looking at?
Swing Fit is one that we're piloting to look to introduce as a national program, and it's based on the concept that females around Australia are spending a lot of money on health and fitness. Can we bring in that component within the golfing environment to get females who haven't actually played golf to be doing some health and fitness type activities in a golf club environment that have some really basic golfing, swinging the club, doing some things that revolve around golf, hopefully to address that fitness concern that people are looking for, but I guess B, to make females feel more comfortable in the golfing and club environment and connect them better.
It's an innovative idea in its own way, the Qantas Golf Club.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. What's been the thinking with GA being involved in that, and what sort of benefits, and how's the program gone to this point?
I guess the major thinking for us was that Qantas is an incredible partner to partner with, or company to partner with. Their frequent flyer database is about 10 million people. They'd done a lot of work looking at that frequent flyer database, and they found that golf was one of their top 2 interests of their people on that database. 1.5 million people on that database indicated they have an interest in golf. We've got 400,000 club members, so there's at least 1.1 million people on that database who aren't club members but have an interest in golf and want to play golf. So it was a chance to connect with them, to hopefully offer them a product that firstly increased the amount of time or their engagement with golf, and then hopefully secondly allowed us to communicate with them and potentially convert them to club members at some point down the track.
Of course, the criticism is, and particularly from clubs struggling, as we already know, is that what it offers is a cheap way to avoid club membership. How do you answer those sorts of criticisms from clubs and golfers?
It was always, from the very first discussion with Qantas, it was embedded in there that we're not going to be involved in anything that has a negative impact on membership. It means we have to monitor the data very carefully. So it's early days. I mean, it's only been going a few months, but we have 34,000 people have registered for the program. So the good news is we're building a database there of people we've got a much better engagement with. We'll continually monitor it and make sure the transition is going the right way and not the wrong way. But I guess the message to clubs is, things are tough in Australian sport and golf around the world, and we do need to investigate new opportunities to grow the game. And this is one that we see having some real value. I think Qantas share our values around doing good things for golf. They want to be seen to be really supporting the game and putting something into golf. So I think we're all on the same page with that. So I see it as having enormous potential for us.
I suppose the numbers alone, you'd almost be irresponsible not to investigate.
Yeah, that's right. You can't keep doing exactly what you're doing and just hope for better results. Yeah. I think that is the definition of insanity. I think maybe Einstein said that. But so you do need to look at new things, but we'll be very, very aggressively monitoring the data that we're getting in and making sure it's doing the right thing for golf.
Yes, there's certainly no shortage of complex issues facing the game and the governing body going forward. Now, just before we come to our viral video this week, a quick mention of a fun event taking place in far western New South Wales. You may recall our story on the New South Wales Sand Green Championships from late last year. Well, the 4-ball Sand Green Championships are on this week at Narromine, hometown of Glen McGrath. There are spots still available in the field. The event is played over 36 holes on Saturday and Sunday and is about as much fun as a golf event could be. If you're interested in challenging yourself to something different, this event comes highly recommended. Head to the Golf New South Wales website for more information. This time last year, Paula Creamer holed an amazing putt at the HSBC event in Singapore. This time though, the 2010 US Open winner had to perform the feat in heels and an evening dress at the pre-tournament dinner. That didn't faze the world number 26 as she once again found the bottom of the cup. So everybody should cheer. That was a remarkable feat indeed. And that wraps it up for the Week in Golf. We look forward to your company again next time on The Week in Golf.